Hey guys, welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for joining, and thank you to everyone who was here for our special Wednesday show last night. So first off, I actually had a pretty early morning down here in Florida. The alarm went off at about 3 a.m., but 5:01 a.m. to be exact is when it really started getting good. Before the sun was even up over Palm Beach, Trump Force One touched down and became the first plane ever to land at President Donald J. Trump International Airport, also known as DJT. It was also the last plane to ever take off from Palm Beach International Airport prior to that, which was PBI. That's right, guys. It's official. And I was on that plane, so it was a pretty awesome way to start the day. A little tired now. We'll show you that. And also get into some of the other news that we didn't get into yesterday. And we'll bring you the latest from the courtroom in Provo, Utah for more big developments. So guys, make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing so you never miss one of these major episodes, okay? Hit the little like button right now. It takes zero time whatsoever. Share this with your friends. Even now, just share it, especially if you're on your smartphone. Make it easy. Share it with your friends. Subscribe again so you don't miss it. If you do miss the show here on Rumble, catch us over on Apple or Spotify podcasts. And also, for all the headlines that we do cover here on the show, go check out my news app, MXM News, like minute by minute, MXM, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. And of course, don't forget about our sponsors for having the guts to support this program. It is not easy. Support those who share your values. And guys, we have another familiar face sponsoring the show now, Goldco. Gold just surged past $5,000 an ounce. Silver blew past 100. And the U.S. just added silver to the critical mineral list, meaning it's now considered crucial for American security and economic survival. This isn't speculation. This is real. That's why I've renewed my partnership with the #1 rated gold company, Goldco. A+ rated by the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, and they've helped Americans place over $3 billion in gold and silver. So visit donjrgold.com, DONJR gold.com, to get a free 2026 gold and silver kit. And because you're part of this audience, you get up to 10% back in bonus silver or gold just for getting started. Again, that's donjrgold.com. Do it now. Educate yourself. What do you have to lose? All right, let's get into all of it. And I guess I'll start on the tarmac because this morning was one of those moments you don't forget. For me, I'm lucky to be a little bit of a little part of it, okay? It's 5 a.m. It's dark, and Trump Force One is coming in over Palm Beach. The same 757 that carried my father through every campaign stop, every rally, every mile of the longest political comeback in American history, and frankly, one of the, before that, back in 16, probably one of the least likely political campaigns and probably most historic in political history. So a lot of history. That plane was the backdrop of really so many incredible rallies. You'd land in Iowa or Pennsylvania at midnight. There'd be thousands of people standing at a fence line just to watch the plane come in. And again, 5:01 a.m. this morning, the wheels touched down. And just like that, Palm Beach International Airport is now President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Here's more from this morning's flight.
Attention all aircraft, effective immediately. Palm Beach International Airport is officially President Donald J. Trump International Airport. President Donald J. Trump International Airport. ATIS Information Hotel, now current. Trump altimeter 3009.
There we go. It's official.
27 Alpha Foxtrot. Understand the President.
Also, since I know there's a lot of questions about how this works, Governor DeSantis signed a law back in March. The Florida legislature passed it. It became official today. The signs are going up all over the county, on the highways, And the airport code itself is changing from PBI to DJT. Okay, we had a lot of those, great local representatives, on the plane with us today. Byron Donald, so many of the team, Joe Abruzzo, all of them. It was pretty awesome. It also means that millions of travelers every single year are going to look down at their boarding pass and see 3 letters, DJT. And that's probably going to piss off at least half of them. Maybe not, but a large number of millions of people will be pissed off, which is just fine. And there's sort of symbolism to all of this. For 10 years, the left-wing machine tried to erase my father, our family. Fake hoaxes, impeachments, indictments, witch hunts. They even tried throwing him off the ballot numerous times. The media tried to tell you that he was finished more times than I can remember, and we spoke about that quite a few times in the early years of this show. Every panel, every expert, every smug, cable news lawyer. And this morning, the sun came up over an international airport with his name on it in his home county, in steel and concrete. There's something sort of fitting and profound about all that. And for everyone out there who stood in the rain at those rallies, who put the flag on the truck, who wore the red MAGA hat, this one's for you too. That airport is a monument to the most loyal political movement in American history, and no one can take it down. And while we're on the subject of things that are actually real, let's talk about putting real money back into your pocket. Walmart, the biggest retailer in America, the place half the country does its weekly shopping at, just announced it's cutting prices on thousands of items. Ground beef, laundry detergent, the basics that every family buys every single week, in stores, online, and at Sam's Clubs. Check this out.
Shoppers could see some relief at the checkout line, though. Walmart cutting prices on thousands of items, including ground beef and soft drinks, laundry detergent, and other essentials. The discounts are available in stores, online, and at Sam's Club. President Trump put out a statement saying this came at his administration's request.
And it's not just the checkout line. The build-out is real, too. Micron just committed $3 billion to build out American chip supply chains. General Motors is putting another $275 million into vehicle and engine manufacturing in Tennessee. And my father made the point this week that the chip business that went overseas for so long is moving back into this country. Real prices are coming down. Real factories are going up. Real jobs. That's one side of the ledger this week. And of course, there's the other side. The other side is the left trying to rewrite our history and our reality any way that they can. So let's talk about the Smithsonian for a second. This great cultural institution of American history, yada, yada, yada. Over the 4th of July weekend, the White House Domestic Political Council dropped a 162-page report calling Saving America's Story, a full audit of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. This is the flagship American History Museum in this country, the one on the National Mall, the one paid for by your tax dollars, the one your kids walk to on their field trip to D.C. And what they found is shockingly worse than you think. The report concludes that the museum had been captured by a radical activist ideology, that it stopped treating American history as a shared inheritance to celebrate and started using it as a political weapon to divide, disparage, discourage the American people, really to dispirit them. And this isn't some vague idea. The report walks through the specific exhibit after exhibit with photos and receipts. The museum's big immigrant exhibit frames citizenship for illegal aliens as a great civil right cause of our time. The girlhood exhibit, an exhibit that is literally supposed to be about girlhood, celebrates a biological male and, of course, refuses to define what a woman is. The National Museum of American History cannot tell you what a woman is. It also basically says America was founded on stolen land and can barely be bothered to care about our founding fathers. The men who built this country are basically a footnote there. But there's apparently plenty of square footage for anti-white activism, illegal alien activism, and, of course, gender ideology. Those are the report's own words. Anti-white activism in the nation's flagship history museum. I don't know, guys, call me crazy, but maybe we should focus on things like, I don't know, the Wright brothers. Where's the moon landing? Where's Normandy? Where's Edison and the Transcontinental Railroad and every ordinary American who built something out of nothing? That's the story of this country. The most inventive, most generous, most successful experiment in human freedom ever attempted. And the people running the building decided the real theme was oppression. And my favorite line on the whole report, frankly, the author said the museum might as well have been, or hung a warning label at every entrance that reads, "These exhibits were prepared by people who don't want you to love your country." That's your flagship history museum, guys. Over $1 billion taxpayer dollars a year. 62% of their funding comes from you. You're paying people to teach your kids that America is something to apologize for. And think about the timing here. I mean, we literally just celebrated America's 250th birthday last weekend. The institution entrusted with telling that story got caught teaching your children that the whole thing is a crime scene? We talked about this last week with the Teddy Roosevelt Museum. Roosevelt said that a nation either builds or it decays. And for decades, the people running our institutions chose decay and called it scholarship. Well, that arrangement is over. This administration put the Smithsonian on notice. If you take the people's money, you tell the people's story. Because here's the thing about the people who curate our history. They are very, very selective about which stories make it to the display case. Because hiding the truth is how they push their lies. And speaking of which, let's check in on the Democrats' new rising startup in Maine. Graham Planter, who actually just dropped out of the race. You know how well that's worked out for Democrats when they rig a primary, because now that he's dropped out of the race, it goes to a few elite select Democrats who get to choose who should be the Senate candidate for Maine this cycle. Now, I know you'll be shocked to hear that the guy with the Nazi tattoo, right, and all the creepy text messages to women and the allegations of sexual assault, didn't quite pan out. It turns out the guy with the Nazi tattoo may have been a really, really bad guy. Didn't stop him before. People still haven't disavowed, at least all of them haven't. They knew all about this before, and then there was one more, and that was, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back, despite, dozens, if not more than that, of allegations that this guy's probably a sociopath. Now, Planter was the Bernie Sanders-endorsed communist who was such a phenomenon that the sitting governor, Janet Mills, looked at the polling and left the race. So the sitting governor was going to run for this seat and just left because this guy was that good in their minds. I mean, he won the June primary comfortably. This was their guy. Last night, their guy quit. But it wasn't that long ago that Democrats like Liz Warren were saying, "That's my kind of man." Check it out.
I am here because Washington needs fighters, and Graham Plattner is the fighter we need. You bet. I said to myself, that's my kind of man. Because that is a man who not only has the values, but a man who believes in accountability. And we need a little accountability coming out of Washington right now. We need Graham Plattner to come in and get rid of the corruption in Washington. Time for new laws.
On Monday, Politico published an on-record allegation from a woman who dated Planter on and off for 2 years. She says that in late 2021, he showed up drunk, came into her home uninvited, and forced himself on her despite repeated objections. And remember, this is the same candidate who had, the racist and sexist online history he blamed on PTSD somehow. The chest tattoo that just so happens to have been, Nazi imagery, which he covered up. Just a month ago, Planter said he was something that stood for, healthy masculinity. Watch him in his own words.
You represent masculinity in certain ways. The Democrats have trouble connecting with male voters. Describe the masculinity that you represent.
I think it's just a healthy form of it, which is, look, I lift weights. I shoot guns. My background is obviously in the military. I work outside. Most of my hobbies are things that people tend to associate with, like, manly stuff, I guess. At the exact same time, I go to therapy. I have a very open sort of dialogue and emotional relationship with my wife. I work incredibly hard to put myself in places where I share space with folks.
Democrats looked at that whole buffet, and said, you know what? That's our guy. That's our nominee. It took yet another allegation before Chuck Schumer and Bernie and Warren and Ruben Gallego all yanked their endorsement. But remember, guys, Democrats know this guy. They knew who he was. They're just pretending to be shocked now because they had no other way out. Watch Scott Jennings on CNN talking about just that.
The only thing I disagree with is when she said that he hadn't been vetted. No, he had been vetted. All of the things that have been stated, it was all out in the public. And people like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway. I agree with Alyssa's question. What changed? Why are you bailing on Graham Plattner now? You already signed off on Nazi tattoo, a self-described communist, somebody who's had rape fantasies, somebody who has been on a social media platform known as a playground for predators, and on and on and on and on and on. And the difference between this accuser and the previous one is simply this. She's a liberal. It's okay, I guess, for Democrats that their candidates assault conservatives. But he broke into someone's house and apparently, according to her, raped her. And because her politics are correct, they can now believe it. All of this whole thing is disgusting. But to say that they hadn't vetted him or that they didn't know about all this is totally false. They knew it and they signed up for it. And I don't know why they're backing away from this scumbag today when they had already signed off on all that other crazy behavior.
So now the party has less than 3 weeks under Maine law to pick a new nominee at an emergency convention. Well, again, sort of how they end up with Kamala Harris. So let's see how this goes. So, we're going to see what happens. But it's clear that Democrats must own this. And now, I want to take you back to Provo. We obviously did an important show last evening with Jack Posobiec. We laid out what's happened this week. We're now 4 days into the preliminary hearing. And as I told you, I was in that courtroom for 2 of those days. Front row, a few from Erica and Charlie's parents. And I promised you we'd stay on the case every step of the way. So here's where it stands. The biggest fight in that room now wasn't about DNA. It's not about the video. It's about overwhelming evidence. It's about whether you get to see it or not. Whether Charlie's own family gets to see the evidence that the state has compiled over the last 10 months. Now, the piece everyone's been waiting for, the recorded police interview with Lance Twiggs, Robinson's roommate and, trans romantic partner, and, that's the interview where Robinson said he killed Charlie because he'd, quote, had enough of his hatred. Charlie Kirk. The guy whose entire career was standing at a table on college campus and saying, prove me wrong to anyone who talked to him, okay? Prove me wrong. Here's the mic. Here's one of the largest platforms in the world. Make your opinion heard. That guy, a lot of hatred, right? He let other people talk, unlike what the left likes to do to us. And what did the defense do with that tape? They fought for 2 days to keep it away from you. So last night, the judge let it in, but he ordered redactions on Wednesday, and then more redactions this morning. So the most important interview in the biggest political assassination case in recent American history comes to you pre-edited by the court. And then, overnight, Erica and Charlie's parents had to file with the court in writing just to ask to see the evidence. Check this out.
This is all related to the 1102 statements, and that's where Lance Twiggs, the romantic interest roommate of Tyler Robinson, basically was interviewed by an SBI agent, a State Bureau of Investigation for Utah agent. And during that interview, the defense contends that he was being led on, meaning that the SBI agent was essentially reading those Discord chat messages and those text messages to him, and he was just agreeing. Why the defense is fighting this right now while it's on full display, it is beguiling. And I'll just say this, if they win this, and they probably are going to because the judge is working in an abundance of caution here, it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory. All of this is going to come out in the trial, so it's just delaying that piece of it. And I'll lastly close with this. When court ends at 5 o'clock, it does not end for the attorneys. So they all go back and they huddle, and what ends up happening is you bring paralegals in to go match up the transcripts with the video and the audio. The defense is contending that some of them provided by the state did not match up, and that's what's got to be cleaned up right now.
And then, guys, earlier today, we got a huge decision. When the judge overruled the defense and will allow a new trove of Tyler Robinson texts and Lance Twiggs audio and video to be published. Now, to be clear, all of this will come out in the trial either way. But the court of public opinion matters too. And I sat with Charlie's family. I watched a widow, 2 grieving parents just show just incredible strength in that courtroom. And as the Kirk family attorney explained, the Kirks have waited 10 months for this hearing. And they have a right to be here. And they have a right to hear the evidence against the man who allegedly killed their husband, their son, our friend. They have a right to see and to feel what's going on in this courtroom.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jeffrey Nyman on behalf of the Kirk family. And we appreciate the court is trying to balance here, but the Kirk family's waited 10 months for this hearing. And they have a right to be here, and they have a right to hear the evidence. They have a right to see and feel what's going on in this courtroom, just like, and they want to understand, Judge, what you are viewing. They want to see the evidence. And we understand you have to balance, but at a minimum, this courtroom needs to be open for the evidence to be displayed openly in this courtroom, for them to see it. The Utah Constitution gives them the right to be here, and to be here and not to see the evidence, what's the point of being here? We ask you to let the evidence be seen in the courtroom, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, counsel.
And then today, finally, we got the evidence the public deserved to see. The video recordings of the Lance Twiggs text messages and confession from Robinson straight from Twiggs' phone. Check this out.
Along?
Okay. And Tyler says, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. And then Lance replies, you weren't the one who did it, right? And Tyler says, I am, I'm sorry. Lance says, I thought they caught the person. And then Tyler says, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude and interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
If we could scroll down to page
3. Continue reading.
Lance says, why? And Tyler says, why did I do it? And Lance says, yeah. Tyler says, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything in the news about them finding it. We'll update you shortly, or sorry, we'll update you by midnight. And then Lance says, all right, stay safe. How long have you been planning this?
Scroll down a little bit, please, Kimberly.
And Tyler replies, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it.
We can scroll down to page 4 and continue reading about halfway down. I'll stop you about halfway down.
This is while they were spot, but I don't want to chance it while they were parked there. If they had found it, I imagine there would be more commotion. Again, I'm sorry for roping you into all of this. You shouldn't have to worry about this. And Lance replies, does anyone else know? Tyler says, not to my knowledge.
All right, I'll stop you there.
Twiggs then confirmed in the recorded interview that he found a note on Robinson's desk on September 10th, admitting he'd left to go take out Charlie Kirk.
Right. You talked about the note that he left. I want to bring this up, and I should say that these text messages that we've been looking at here are Bates number 54. Okay. The notes have been titled 16.3 with a note, and this is Bates number 58. Do you recognize that on the screen there?
Yeah.
What do you recognize it as?
That was the note under his keyboard that he was referring to in the first text of that chain.
Okay. So where did you find this?
On his desk underneath his computer keyboard.
And I assume you read it.
Yeah.
And then what did you do with it after you read it?
I believe I just put it back down on the desk after I took a picture of it.
Okay. And again, the time you read it was probably around 11 o'clock or so on the 10th.
Yes.
The night of September 10th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And did you ever see that again after you placed it back on his desk?
No, I don't think I did.
And that was a desk in his bedroom?
Yes.
And that's a separate bedroom than your bedroom?
Yeah.
Guys, that's not vague. That's a confession note. Again, folks, the evidence here is overwhelming. The DNA, the literal confessions, the identifications, the fact that his own parents, recognized him in the videos. The roommate and the romantic partner confirming he confessed, that he even wrote the note. The fact that the roommate was clearly very sympathetic to the trans cause, something Charlie spoke about ad nauseum. I know because I did many of those things with him live. So for all the noise that some people want you to hear or believe, the facts are clear. And I just want you to all understand those facts and to be able to separate fact from fiction. And of course, guys, we'll continue following this story every step of the way, ensuring that Charlie and his family and all of us get the justice we deserve. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember to like, to share, to subscribe, okay? Hit the like button. It takes no time. Share this with your friends now, okay? We got to separate fact from fiction. We got to get it out there. Subscribe so you never miss one of these major episodes. Be sure to check out our incredible sponsors down below and in the video description, okay? They keep the show running. It's not easy to support, programming like this, truth like this, okay? Support those who share your values and who have the guts to actually stand by it, okay? Download the Rumble app. Check it out on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you get your podcast that way as well, or if you can't make the show here, if your friends get their podcast that way, subscribe, share it with them there. We got to get the message out. So Guys, thanks so much, and I'll talk to you all again very soon.